You're listening to the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. We all have leadership within us, and once we understand how to challenge perceived limitations, we're able to influence those we're leading. Josh is a leadership coach, trainer, and speaker. He's also a veteran of the United States Air Force with over 20 years of leadership experience. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's Josh in today's episode.
Welcome to the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. To kick things off, I want to thank each and every one of you for subscribing and tuning in. As always, without you, this show isn't possible, so I sincerely appreciate you listening in. Now, this episode is going to wrap up our Level Up series. So as you know, we've been doing a Level Up series, and I'm excited to share this episode with you. We're going to determine, did we save the best for last? And I think our guest is going to answer that question for us, which is with a resounding yes. I'm introducing to you our guest today, Stuart Grazier. He's a Navy veteran. He's a fellow entrepreneur, a real estate investor, and a podcast host. Stuart, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know who your other guests were in the Level Up series, but just because you saved the best for last, I'm a veteran. It's absolutely going to be the best for last.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yeah. You know, yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored to be here. Man, you have a great podcast. I read your book just recently and stoked on that. Man, it was so good. So a little bit of background about me. As you said, a veteran. I served in the Navy for 20 years. I flew helicopters for 10 of those years, and then I flew Boeing 737s, did some staff tours, moved all around, and had a lot of fun. And along that journey, I got really interested in just being an entrepreneur, specifically in the real estate world, and started just kind of learning and trying my hand at a bunch of different asset classes and niches and strategies in the real estate investing space. And I feel like I've probably tried them all. I failed a lot along that journey, but also had some wins along the way too. And happy to kind of, dive into the beginning of that story and anything in between.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Stuart. I will say I love the fact that you even highlight the fact that along your journey through a lot of wins, you also had some failures. And I think that's important for a lot of our listeners to remember and know is like, hey, it's gonna take some bumps and bruises to get there. And failing is not necessarily a bad thing. When we fail at something, we're learning and we're growing through it all. And failing doesn't make you a failure either. I think being able to recognize failure is a good thing. I like to say it's a win-win, because if you're winning, you're winning. If you're failing, you're winning because you're learning. And so thank you for sharing that. I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about those failures and wins, but I'm really excited to have you specifically on this episode. And the reason being is I know that you have a wealth of knowledge that a lot of our listeners are going to be able to take away from today's episode. When we're talking about leveling up our life, for our listeners, we've talked about 4 other areas in which we can level up our life, that being spiritually, physically, emotionally, academically, and now financially. So if we're looking to level up our life and make 2024 the best year possible, what are some basic fundamentals you can begin with for someone who's looking to level up from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, man, it's such a good question. It's so important to get a handle on your finances, just your personal finances. Let's just start there. So as a military member, there were lots of opportunities to get into debt, or I was young and dumb, and I had a paycheck, and like I could go out and spend it on dumb things, and I did that, right? I did a lot of that stuff early on. But somewhere along the journey, kind of a couple years in, I had heard about this guy named Dave Ramsey. I'm sure you and your listeners probably heard about them. I was actually on a deployment in Iraq, and this Army chaplain was leading a financial peace university class. And I had just bought a new truck. It was a 2-door Chevy Tahoe. I used my my student loan from the Naval Academy to buy that thing. It was awesome, right? Like a super cool, like nice, shiny new truck. But I was like 50 grand in debt already to begin with, with between my truck and then credit card debt. And I knew I had to get a handle on that. So Thankfully, the course was free. They had offered it to the military guys overseas deployed to take it. And I just dove in, man. And so I highly recommend that, especially if you're kind of just getting into the personal finance world and just trying to just get educated, right? Like it's very, very educational. It's very basic, and he has 6 baby steps, and just getting through those was huge for me, because not only did I kind of learn the process and understand the terminology, but it wasn't so like huge, big chunks that you had to tackle. It was just like bite-sized increments of stuff. Baby step 1 is just get $1,000 in your savings account for an emergency. Like that's step 1. And that's not too bad. But like what I found was that education was really good for getting from essentially a negative net worth to a zero balance, right? To a zero net worth. And so that includes like really figuring out, something like a budget, like how much are you bringing in versus how much is going out, and, line iteming and tracking. I think the biggest thing is tracking. And that's, in your level up series, I'm sure people are going to talk about, hey, tracking what you're doing health-wise, right? Tracking what you're doing spiritually, tracking what you're doing, educationally, working out, all these things. Like it's all about tracking, right? So first thing is like understanding, getting educated, getting financially educated, and then start to track stuff. Like figure out what's coming in and what's going out.
Sure. Yeah, we talk about what gets measured gets managed, and
that's right.
We need to put pen to paper and recognize for a lot of us, when we start creating a budget and we really start putting pen to paper, and all of a sudden we're realizing, oh, we actually spend a lot more money eating out than we thought we did, or we spend a lot more money here at the grocery store or wherever than we thought we did. What are some tips or advice you can give to our listeners who have never created a budget before? So already it may feel a little daunting because it's new and it's uncomfortable. And B, let's say, something that Dave talks about in Financial Peace is you got was it the free spirit and the spender? Is that,
that's right. Yeah.
The free spirit and the saver, I think. Let's say you're in a relationship with your spouse and you both just don't see eye to eye financially. What's some advice you can give when you're creating a budget as a team?
Yeah, I think just the biggest thing is just to have a conversation, right? Just and be open-minded before you even have the conversation, to understand that like, hey, got it. You're this way and I'm this way, but this is a team event, right? And we're going to have to give a little bit, right? You're going to have to give a little bit. I'm going to have to give a little bit to come to an agreement. But the goal, we should be on the same page with, right? The goal is to get financially savvy. The goal is to get financially free and get into a good spot, get out of debt, right? And so that means that we're going to have to give and take a little bit. Maybe we cancel the Netflix, and then you are going to like lower your whatever, right? Like the car payment, or maybe we're going to sell some stuff, right? And we got to figure some stuff out to where we can get into not losing money every single month, but gaining money every single month, and kind of getting rid of some stuff. And I'm getting to a place where like you're living below your means and you're in a positive trajectory towards getting rid of debt and getting into a financial good place.
Yeah, love that. So I did a little research prior to this episode, and I learned that the average American has $100,000 in consumer debt and only $5,000 in savings. And a lot of us feel the financial burdens like debt or living a paycheck to paycheck kind of lifestyle. Stress, anxiety, sleepless nights, all that stuff comes with it. And so it's so important, to your point, that we need to be able to live a debt-free lifestyle. I think Dave even says, live like no one else, so later you can live and give like no one else. So now we have we've established a $1,000 emergency fund. We have created the budget. Now the easy thing to do is create the budget. The hard thing to do is live out the budget.
Follow. Yeah.
Following it, right? I mean, it's like goal setting. It's super easy to set a goal. My goal is to make this amount of money this year. My goal is to get, lose this amount of weight this year. I just set 2 goals in about 5 seconds. Well, now I got to take the steps in order to get there. So what advice would you give to someone in order to maintain that consistency and that longevity in order to get from point A to point B being a debt-free lifestyle?
Yeah. There's a couple different things that come to mind. One is, if you're doing it with a partner, if you're doing it with a spouse, just that accountability, right?
Yeah.
Having that accountability and doing like, daily, weekly check-ins with each other and, running that together, running the budget together, seeing where you sit with stuff, right? So accountability is one thing. If you're single, if you don't have a spouse, like find a friend, find a buddy, find someone that you can kind of like report to, right? And check in and hold you accountable, and be a friend enough to like call you out, like when you mess up, right? The next thing I think is, you're going to make mistakes along the way. And just like we said with failures, like learn from them, grow from them, and move forward with it. It's baby steps. It's just, it's not, you're not going to get rich quick, right? It's a slow process. And that's what it is. It's a process. It's a system. So if you can set up, processes and systems, the better off you're going to be. If you can automate things, right? If you can do an automatic debt reduction, right? You're paying off the credit card automatically every single month. So like you don't even have to touch it. If you're automatically setting up from, a transfer from your checking to your savings every single month, like set it up. And it's just like if the least you can do to actually have to go in there and do stuff every single day, the better off you're going to be. So, making automated stuff, processes, systems, and accountability, I think are huge.
Love that. I think processes are huge. I think if we're consistent, our processes allow us to be more efficient, ultimately more productive. And we then have the ability to create and buy time with our processes. And with more time, we can level up in other areas of our life. Like we talked about, we got spiritual, physical, emotional, academic, and now financial. Stuart, let's talk about, I want to talk about you specifically and the primary field of work that you're in. You're a real estate investor. You've done a lot of real estate investments over the course of your financial journey. Talk to the audience about what got you into what you're doing, what it is exactly that you are doing. And I'd love to, to learn more about all that. So go ahead and share with us everything I just mentioned.
Yeah, man. So it's definitely been a journey for sure. Like I said earlier, I've probably tried it all. And I think for me, I have an entrepreneur spirit. So I'm kind of one of those guys that's like, I'm going to go tackle something and like I get an idea and I go attack it even before maybe I'm not the most ready for it. But I think that's okay because, I think you learn from that journey along the way. So for me, the first inkling of an idea towards real estate investing was I was actually in flight school, just learning to fly helicopters right out of college. And a buddy of mine who'd been doing real estate for a while, his dad was in real estate. We were stationed in Pensacola, Florida, and he had bought some land across the border in Alabama. And he was basically just like flipping land. Like he would buy a lot of land, hold it for a little bit, let it appreciate and sell it. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. It's like, yeah, it's super easy. You just buy it, sit on it for a little bit and then sell it. And I was like, cool, I'll do that. So like, same thing, like, right, all right, cool, I like it, I'll go do it.
Yep.
And not really being educated very much on it, got just a little bit of an idea, went over there, found a realtor, started showing me some properties and bought just an empty lot in a semi-new development. I put $5,000 down. That's about all I had. I financed the rest and just held it. About 3 months later, a huge hurricane came through the Gulf Coast and wiped out a lot of the land. Like a bunch of the land was flooded. I was like, oh, great. Like there goes my investment, right? But there wasn't much I could do about it. Just, let it all dry out, let everything kind of recoup. And 6 months after that, I got a call from that same realtor, and he said, hey, man, your lot is like the last one in this development, in this housing development. We have someone who wants to buy it for double what I paid. And I was like, sold. And so like not overnight, 9 months later, I basically doubled my investment.
Yeah.
And I was hooked. Like I was sold from then on. I took that money, I took that profit, and I moved to San Diego for my first duty station. And I went in with a buddy of mine. We bought a house in San Diego, which was way more expensive than we should have bought. It was in 2005, like when they were just like handing out loans like candy. And we bought it together, and then we had roommates. We were renting rooms to other military members. We had a dude living in the basement garage area, like on a mattress. Like we had dudes everywhere.
Yeah.
We were single. And it was a great time. So basically we had guys paying our mortgage for us, rented by them. They call that house hacking now, which I think is an amazing strategy. It's a really, really good strategy to start with, especially for veterans, because you can use your veteran, your VA loan, put zero down on a house, and you can rent out the other rooms to your buddies, and they'll pay your mortgage for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's a really good way to start. So that kind of got me interested, got me excited. I just started, listening to podcasts, reading books, going to seminars, and just educated myself. And, every time I learned something, I'd go try it. Learn something, go try it. And sometimes I'd do well, and sometimes I would, fall flat on my face. But just over time, I just continued to get more confident, continued to build my network because I was going to conferences and events and, taking phone calls, and just started networking and kind of just figured out the different niches and strategies, which ones I like. And, now we're at a place, my college roommate and I started a real estate company in 2018 when we were, kind of getting ready for the transition, figuring out what we wanted to do after the Navy. And we built what's called a turnkey company. Essentially, we buy houses, they're all fixer-uppers. We rehab them, get them all pretty, get a tenant in place, put property management in place, and we sell off that rental property to other investors who want just kind of the turnkey product. So it's completely rehabbed, tenant already rented in place, property management in place, and you sell that as a cash flow and rental property asset. So we started that in 2018, and we got to a place where we were doing 40 to 50 of those a year, all while we were still in the military, and it was a lot. We've done some pivots since then to kind of slow down the operations and kind of move more into some passive roles, but that was kind of the bulk of the business when we got going, for real in real estate, and kind of just instead of just like doing some side hustle stuff.
Sure, very good. Well, so I think you shared some good advice on, if people want to get into real estate investing. You shared what you did was you did a lot of research, you went to a lot of seminars, you attended a lot of conferences, you networked with a lot of people. If you're trying to give some advice to someone right now who wants to get into, almost that fast track approach, what would you say? Would you say, hey, do everything I did? Or would you say, hey, you know what, knowing what I know now, here's what I would have done differently? What would you say to that in terms of the advice?
Yeah, so I think one, you have to get your personal finances in order first. So get to a place where you're not in a bunch of debt. Get to a place where you have a savings account. Get to a place where you have an emergency fund, and understand your personal finances. Like, that's first and foremost. Don't try to go into getting into real estate and think you're going to get out of major debt in your personal finances to save you, right? That's dangerous. So first, get to a personal financial good spot first, and understand that, right? Understand just finance in general. Always be educated. Always get more education. I'm always learning. There's always new, tricks, different trades, like different things that you can always learn on. So always stay educated, reading books, listening to podcasts, going to meetups, events, seminars, conferences. Always be doing that stuff. I think if the one thing that I would say if you want to, kind of get a little ahead of the game and fast track a little bit, is don't try to do it yourself. For the longest time, I tried to do everything on my own. I was a one-man show. I was a one-man business, and it's just going to go slower because there's just more to do. There's more to learn. There's more failure opportunities. So I would say build a team. Like, put yourself and surround yourself with other people that can kind of tag team it, right? Like, if you're good in one area, and then you need another partner that's going to be good in another area, or go be like a small partner with someone who's been doing it for a lot longer, so you can learn. Maybe you're not going to get a ton of equity or a ton of percentage of the deal, but maybe just get a small percentage of the deal just to be a part of it, right? Just to be a small fly on the wall and learn and get educated. That's going to push you further faster by just being a part of a team, right? Going and building somebody up and helping them, so that way you can learn faster.
Well, and multiple minds are better than one. I think it's so 100%. That we're surrounding ourselves with people who are more knowledgeable than us. I mean, you want to surround yourself with people who are talented and knowledgeable and are experts in their field. And so if you can find those people, latch onto them. And I love, Stuart, how you talked about the importance of getting your personal finances figured out first. This is the equivalent of, we talk a lot about on this podcast how we want to make sure that we are leading ourselves first before we lead our team. And for a lot of people, that may sound like a bit of a foreign concept, but it's the equivalent of when you can effectively lead yourself first, and you can make sure that you are exercising some self-care. We're talking about leveling up in 5 different areas, right? You're exercising some self-care. You're sharpening your axe, because when you can be the best version of yourself, you can then go serve and support and lead others at a more adequate, a more effective way. And in fact, the analogy that I like to share is, imagine like when you're on an airplane and they talk about, if there's a situation at hand and the oxygen masks fall from the top of the plane, who do they tell you to put the mask on first? It's always yourself, right? And you're like, wait, well, I got my kids with me, and it's like, no, put your mask on first. When you can set boundaries, when you can make sure that you are exercising some self-care, and for lack of better terms, you're just being selfish, and that's a good thing. You can be selfish to take care of yourself, and then you can further go take care of those around you. So to tie it back into the finances, you're saying take care of your personal finances first, get those under control, learn how to manage those effectively, and you're going to be set up for incredible success on the professional side of things as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Back to kind of the idea of going to Dave Ramsey and going through Financial Peace University. I think it's great. I disagree a little bit with his concepts of debt, and all debt is bad. I think all expensive debt and all personal debt is bad. So I think, you need to get to where you're at a zero net worth, right? If you're in a negative setting, a negative personal net worth, get out of debt, figure out your finances, get a budget, get to a place where you're a zero net worth, and then you can kind of start figuring out the investing space, right? Then you can kind of take on some investment debt, but that investment debt is a lot different, because that investment debt will actually help you make more money and build your net worth. So there is a difference for sure.
Good, very good. I love a lot of the information that you shared. I think it's important for our listeners to be able to walk away with some takeaways and some nuggets here. You shared a lot of them, Stuart. And I think what I'm walking away with first and foremost is knowing, hey, if I'm going to be leveling up financially, I've got to make sure that I am being intentional. I've got to be consistent. I've got to make sure that I am, going through those baby steps. Dave talks about the debt snowball and what that looks like, and and also what it doesn't look like. I like the fact that you touched on, I don't know if you referenced it as healthy debt, but that's something that I think a lot of people that I've spoken with in the past, and myself included, may have some differing opinions, than our man Dave Ramsey does. Me personally, with the debt snowball, I've always questioned, like, wait, wouldn't you want to tackle the debt with the highest interest first? And he's saying, no, get your lowest balance tackled first.
Get a win.
And I like the concept, because, once you get that win, what gets celebrated gets repeated. So once you get that win, you start stacking those wins. But Stuart, this is great, man. I appreciate you being on the show. I don't want to cut it short, because I know you got other things to share with us. If I were to put you on the spot and say, Stuart, if there is one piece of advice that you'd give anybody regarding anything financial, what would you share with the audience?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I don't know if it's really tied to anything financially related. But in the same manner, I think that a really important piece, like I said earlier, is find a team, find a tribe, and, surround yourself with like-minded individuals that have a similar mindset, similar goals, a similar way of looking at life. People that are going to push you to be better, push you to try hard things, pick you up when you fall down, dust you off and get you on your way again, right? You have to find a community. You have to find a tribe and people that are going to, hug you and hang out with you and give you high fives and just push you to be better every single day. Again, I tried to do a lot of this stuff on my own for a long time, but it's so much more fun if you're doing it with your friends or, other people that you're surrounding yourself with. And, kind of going to the veteran stuff a little bit, I found as I was transitioning out of the military, the military itself gives you that tribe, right? They give you a community, the squadron that you're at, the command that you're at. There are people that are similar minded, similar goals. They're going to push you to do better. And when you leave that, if you're not super intentional about finding a tribe and putting yourself into either creating your own tribe or going and inserting yourself into a community, into a tribe, you're going to be lonely. And that's where like stuff starts to go really wrong, right? I think that's a big problem with the veteran suicide rates. They leave the military. They don't have a mission anymore. They don't have a purpose, and they don't have a community. So I think that's super, super important for individuals to do. And that could be a church group, a mastermind, a sports league, just some dudes in your local community that you go grab a coffee with every day. Like, find people to hang out with.
I think, you hit on a great point, and I love that you bring this up, because I want to make sure that I can highlight and honor you and your tribe that you've created, because I know that you've created an incredible tribe that you invited me into called the Kinetic Man. I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit on the Kinetic Man, but I want to highlight the fact that you talked about how there's this camaraderie that a lot of veterans were used to when they were in the military, and you're so accustomed to it, and hopefully you're not taking advantage, or you're not. You're recognizing what you have while you're in, and if you don't, you will recognize what you had when you're out, because you're going to realize, man, I had a camaraderie that I never thought I would get out of the military. And when you can find a tribe, when you can find a community, or to your point, create one, that can go a long way. And I'm personally blessed to say that I found a community and a tribe, if you will, after my military experience, which I never thought I would. And when you can experience that, that will help you level up in all those areas that we've briefly discussed. And so, would you mind talking about your tribe that you've created, which I'm really encouraged by? It's called the Kinetic Man. So go ahead and share with us what the Kinetic Man is.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. So it came from a place of hurt and failure, to be brutally honest. Like I said, we were transitioning out of the military. We had built some real estate businesses. But one thing that we thought the real estate world was going to do for us was just that, like build meaningful relationships, and build a community. What we found out, like, there's some great stuff to real estate. There's also some bad stuff to real estate in the investing world. It's very transactional. It's just really, it's about making money and building wealth. And a lot of people get trapped into that world, to include us for a little bit. We were really just in this hustle grind mode of like doing deals, the more flips, the better, making more money, building wealth, building passive income, all these kind of buzzwords that they have in the real estate space. And that can get to a dangerous place. And it did for us, because what we ended up finding out, we had these aha moments of like, all right, we say we're doing all this for our family, but our actions weren't following our words at all. We said, our God and our spouse and our kids and our friends were all important to us, but we weren't paying attention to them at all, because all we were doing was hustling, grinding from sun up to sundown, phone in front of our face, taking, real estate calls, raising money, dealing with contractors, dealing with tenants, social media, everything that goes into being a real estate investor. And we're like, man, I don't have a relationship with my wife. My kids just see me with a phone in front of my face all the time. I'm getting fat. We're not going to church anymore because I'm working all day on Sunday. And this isn't a good place to be. And so out of that came a lot of failure, and some really deep kind of retrospection of what's going on. And so we pivoted a lot in our real estate businesses to slow down the pace and really get back to what was the most important things in our life. And those are the things we talked about: our family, our friends, our health, having fun, right? Like going and doing fun things with friends, right? Which a lot of middle-aged men like forget how to do, right? Because they're just so focused on their career and so focused on their family. And so we just invited 10 men to come into our lives, 10 men that we knew would show up, friends of ours from our military days, friends from high school, a couple of buddies there. And we say, can we just get on Zoom once a week and let's talk about this stuff, and let's hold each other accountable to being better in these areas of our life. And it was all free, just a kind of a small group, just meeting on Zoom for an hour a week. And it was incredible, man. Like 18 months later, it was the most purposeful, impactful thing that all of us did. I grew tremendously. My faith was better. My health was better. My relationship with my kids and my spouse were better. Like all these areas were incredibly better. And interestingly enough, our businesses grew as well, right? Yeah. It's like you said, when you work on yourself first, all the other things are going to come too. So And then the other 10 men, same exact thing. And so we realized like, we need this. Men need this in our lives. We need people to hold us accountable, to lift you up, to push you to get better. So that turned into a full-blown business. It turned into a podcast. So we have a podcast called the Kinetic Man Podcast. We talk about the areas of life that men need, to be better husbands, to be better dads, to be better friends. And it really is, we've kind of come up with this saying just recently. We are regret avoidance specialists. And we just had Jordan Grumman on our podcast, and he's a hospice doctor, and he talks to patients that are on their deathbed. And there's 5 areas of their life of regret, right? And all those areas of regret are things that they could have done very easily, right? It's hanging out with friends, right? It's being happy. It's not working so much. It's doing the things that you love to do, that God called you and created you to do, right? Not what the world tells you that you need to do. So all these things, like we were like, all right, we got to put this stuff in place. We got to be intentional, be kinetic. We don't want to have potential. We want to be kinetic. We want to take action and become better in these areas of our lives. So we built a business out of it. It's a full-blown men's mastermind group. They're kind of church small group settings, 10 to 15 men in a small group. They meet online once a week on Zoom. We go through a curriculum of 10 major topics: identity, purpose, health, fun, friends, family, faith, finances. Lots of veterans in it, lots of entrepreneurs, real estate investors. But it's not a business mastermind. It's a lifestyle mastermind, and we're just like trying to become better men, better husbands, better dads.
We're just leveling up, right?
Leveling up.
I love that. And I want to give you a shout out because you had me as a guest on the Kinetic Man podcast. And so that's right. We're doing that, and the great opportunity that I'm grateful for. But Stuart, where can our listeners find you? Where can they find the Kinetic Man podcast, the mastermind, all the stuff? Where can we find Stuart Grazier's stuff?
Yeah. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. If you are on LinkedIn and you want to be on the socials, that's probably my go-to spot is LinkedIn. You can just look me up, Stuart Grazier. And then our website is thekineticman.com. That's for the mastermind and for our podcast. We do a bi-monthly newsletter called The Manifesto. My other business partner writes that. Just some like super easy reading, 3 minutes probably max. Just some stuff that you can read and take action on. It's called The Manifesto. You can go to thekineticman.com/newsletter and check that out. It's a really fun piece to read every couple of weeks. And those are the 3 places.
Awesome. Well, Stuart Grazier, thank you once again, man, for joining us on the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. Hey, this will not be your last episode. I can guarantee that. Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it again.
All right. Very good. Well,
thanks, man. I love it.
Awesome. Well, every episode, I do try to bring new ideas and new insights and new information regarding all things leadership. So whether it's guests like Stuart or topics we can all relate to, if you enjoy this podcast, I think you'll enjoy my new book titled Leading a Legacy, which dives into how we can live today to make an impact for tomorrow. So the legacy we lead determines the legacy that we leave. So as I sign off, I want to leave you with one more request and ask that you head on over to Amazon to pick up your copy of Leading a Legacy. I literally almost forgot the title of my book just now. Or you can head over to my website, limitlessleadership.co, to receive a signed copy of the book as well as a free ebook direct with your purchase. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Stuart, once again. Have a great day. Don't forget to tell everyone, tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.